You are watching
Yeah, Far
Xirtus.
Cry. I mean, this is just my feelings on Ubisoft in general as a company. I think they're like a psyop. I think they are some kind of like affiliate for like some deep state media psyop because they're heavily affiliated with Tom Clancy, who I also think is like a federal agent of some propaganda machine of some sort.
If
But
he
yeah, it's all
wasn't, he's got to be one now, right? Like I think they arrested him that one time for having was it what was the book that he did? Was it Some of All Fears or
a lot of
was it
books,
the
all of them.
Ghost? Yeah, I'm trying to remember. He got in trouble for one of those books because they said like they thought that he was just it was too accurate to information that was too sensitive, and so
I
they're
think it was
wondering like where are
like
you getting
Hunt
your
for Red
sources?
October, maybe.
Was he actually a
Maybe
serviceman?
He wanted to
nobody.
be,
Yeah,
but he got rejected. And so like, but then his books were so detailed and like so on point with military terminology that like he met the president. And the
yeah.
president was even like actively started endorsing his shit, which makes me think it's like this guy's definitely a fucking like he's like a Fed or something, like a
He's a output, so you can so actually if you're not allowed to write your memoirs because you're not allowed to portray, you can even if you have freedom of speech, if you work for the corporation for the company, you know you can't. If you work for the company, you can't tell people what's going on.
I mean, he could just be like a covert propagandist being paid.
yeah,
Under the
that's
table.
basically what I'm saying. I
With
don't think he's
ghostwriters.
That would be
yeah.
probably something that they did after they noticed his talent. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Use
Yeah.
him as
Like
a
I
ghostwriter.
guarantee you that they have scouts that like probably go out and like how they have like college football guys looking at high school games
Yeah, it's like, can you
all
make
the time.
movies?
And like if
Do you want to
somebody
serve your
like
country?
yeah, like if somebody like bubbles to the top, it's like, hey man, you're a good writer. Maybe you should come meet some people that I know.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think Stan Lee was like that too, actually. Like when he was making comics, I definitely
Yeah, or
think he
even
was
if they
like,
just become like business
Oh,
magnates after a while, it's like, wow, okay, your megaphone reaches this many millions of people. We would like to partner with you so to put this message out, and it's really not even subtle anymore. It's all over the place. Like, if have you ever played Sonic Adventure 2? The way Sonic and the government interact initially is that they mistake Sonic for Shadow or vice versa and
mhm.
arrest him because of something. I forget exactly how the whole thing started, but yeah, there was an arrest, which totally it isn't totally implausible, seeing as that Sonic transformed into something that exact shape at the end of the previous game. So everybody just thinks that Sonic the Shadow is just another Dark Super Sonic or something. Anyway, so he
I like.
escapes from being arrested. But if you watch the movie, the way they tell the story is that all of a sudden something goes on and the government calls up Sonic's G-Man buddy to call him to come help. And it's not exactly how it works, but whenever they make a movie, whenever they put something in mass media, and they make a change that fundamental to a character where they have to it's like how many cop shows were there where it's like, oh, there's this supernatural character like a superhero or the devil, and he's like somehow present in normal people earth, but he's sitting in a police station helping the cops figure something out.
Yeah, he needs a federal
Like
chaperone.
really fucking shows. Like they
The
literally
best,
made a show about the devil where he literally spends half the show in a police station every episode just helping the cops solve mysteries.
yo,
It's
the
like
best,
Scooby-Doo, it's like,
the most prescient example of what you just described was in the first Black Panther movie when you realize like this is just a movie about a neoconservative monarch teaming up with a white CIA agent to destroy an allegory for the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was like, this is actually brilliant because it's one of those
wait,
movies that
explain
would
how.
appeal to.
I didn't see it.
All right, so basically like one like lost son of Wakanda like goes against Wakanda, and basically his beef is like you just let all the black people of America get enslaved, get oppressed. Meanwhile, you sit here in your ivory tower with your advanced technology that could have liberated our people
Your
ages ago.
Afro-Zionism, yeah.
And these are the bad guys. Like these are the
Was
bad
it
guys.
literally an ivory tower? They have elephants there, right?
They have
Ebony Tower.
they
Just
have
kidding.
vibranium or something. But yeah, it was crazy
Okay.
because like so you had like liberals like cheering for this movie just because of aesthetics, and I'm like, this is the kind of movie that appeals to both like a really smart racist and a really stupid liberal. Like they would both watch this and they'd be like, this is fucking brilliant. I love it.
So wait,
I was
like
like,
the idea is that everybody, all the black people in America were like originally from Wakanda and Wakanda wasn't helping them?
no,
Wakanda
Wakanda
ran
was
after.
yeah, Wakanda was always isolated from the whole dynamic because they were hidden thanks to their advanced vibranium technology. So they were never
But do
really
they relate to the rest of the people in the world, or are they
No,
totally a separate population?
totally isolated, kept secret, in fact.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so the idea was like the lost son of Wakanda who served in the military, who who went through like racism, like systematic racism. After he finishes his shit, he's like, you know what? I'm going to destroy Wakanda, take those weapons, and liberate the black people by, I don't know, going to war against white people. Like that's what it was reduced to.
Was that the good guy or the bad guy?
Bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay.
And the good guy slaughters him, like just ruthlessly skewers him. I was like, this is kind of
dies of cancer.
Yeah. I was like, this is a little
It was also weird because the idea that Wakanda decided what revolutions happen based on violence, which was really funny to me. So it was like, you know, the societies supposedly lasted for thousands of generations, and yet all it took was like one rage battle. That there's no like there's no democratic process to protect or sustain this kingdom. It literally comes down to this Pride Rock Simba versus Scar crap, where they have to, you know, which is not a good way to like keep your government stable. It doesn't really make any sense. I was like,
I mean, that's probably like an allegory for like two guys who have an army fighting each other. I bet. I think like you can't really decide a nation based on one fist fight.
I think the idea was.
Although I think it would be amazing if Trump got Zelensky and Putin at gunpoint in Washington and just forced
them do an arm wrestle,
settle things in a pay-per-view boxing match.
That would be awesome to watch Putin destroy Zelensky. Yeah.
We don't need Ukrainian peasants or Russian peasants to be dying for their leaders, either one. And you know what? Yeah, it was an invasion by Russia into Ukraine. But you know what? Let the two guys at the top fight it out. I don't even want the guys directly below them to be losing teeth or fingers over it.
I think it's funny now because they're psychologically they're processing people with the idea that Putin's going to win. They're like, well, you know, he's an asshole, but you can't call him that because that won't help us end the war. So you have to just, you know, yeah, he's a bad guy and it's all his fault, but you know, like you just have to not say that anymore. And I feel like I'm going to upset all my Ukrainian friends. I have a lot of Ukrainian friends, and I wanted to have our friend Vladimir back on the show, who's a Ukrainian we did an interview with him a year or two ago. I asked him, he would have been down, but he said he's been drafted. It's like, bro, you're like 5'2" and you're nearsighted. Back to nearsightedness, by the way, because I was thinking about Tom Clancy, and he's myopic as well. He's nearsighted, obviously. I mean, look at that. So something about nearsighted people. But I was like, what are you going to do for the Ukrainian army? And he's like, I don't know, die, I guess, you know? So it's like, it's hard. I mean, yeah, because Slavs are like that, but it's a bummer because is it true what we're saying? And do we have to pretend that we all agree? Because I don't know. I mean, you know, the other side of it, right? The Ukrainian side of it is that Ukraine's a real country. And the Russian side of it is that Ukraine is just an excuse because it used to be part of the Soviet Union, and the Ukrainian history is so far removed from the Ukrainian state, and that the Ukrainian ideology and culture is synthetic and new, and half or more of the Ukraine, I mean, Ukraine's made up of a bunch of different kinds of people. You have the Polachks, the Jews, the Tartars, the Crimeans. You have Ukrainian nationals, and it's a port. You've got Turks even technically, and you have Russians, and half of Ukraine are Russians, including Zelensky, who only learned how to speak Ukrainian kind of in the last 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, they're all so. The Russian excuse is that they're tired of seeing the Russian citizens in Ukraine exploited, oppressed, murdered, replaced by the Ukrainian state. However, there's Russian Ukrainians who don't want to have anything to do with Putin. So Ukraine became kind of an excuse to exist outside of Russia. You could be Russian outside of Russia. It's like kind of the loophole.
Like Taiwan.
Yeah. So, I mean, the argument, I think that's really what it is Ukraine, or is Ukraine the Russian Taiwan? And I think either way, it's important, right? But it's important to think about it that way, that Russians live there.
Like, it's really, I mean,
they're not looking for Kiev. It's not that Russia wants Kiev. They just want the Russian cities in Ukraine to be Russian and protected by Russia. Right? Yeah. They didn't ever say that they wanted to conquer Kiev. You know?
No, I think that, they were worried about some things that were happening on the Ukrainian border during between 2020 and 2022.
Even before that, 2014 on, because Ukraine's crazy. You got paramilitary groups that pretend to be, and they're gangs.
Yeah, they're not even government.
Yeah, they're just gangs. You have gangs of people with army surplus equipment that they have through cartels and military.
Yeah, but to be fair, a lot of those gangs are older than some of those political regimes that were just propped up post-Soviet fall. So, they might be there for a very good reason. Maybe a lot of these entities wouldn't even be in power if it wasn't for those like criminal
But from a
elements.
pragmatic perspective,
actually.
regardless of what led up to the current moment, I really question whether or not after this long can Ukraine, maybe that last wave of conscripts will be exactly what they need, or the next one, I should say. But I'm not sure if they can actually win it alone. So the rest of the world really needs to decide whether or not it's worth risking World War III over sending their own troops in.
I think though you also got. I mean, I've been looking at all these videos. I know a lot of Ukrainian girls, and it's just like Ukraine's filled with hot chicks dancing. So you got all the men are dead, and you're gonna have a bunch of war brides. That's basically what's gonna be left of the Ukraine. So is this just so that like Israel can have a bunch of Ukrainian girls, or why are they murdering all of the able-bodied men in the entire country?
Yo, I have a question for you guys on the subject.
Well, that's just kind of like a result of what's going on. The fact that they're dying.
Though?
I'm not sure
Is it though?
Yo, because Sean, you live in New York too.
On people.
So I want to ask you guys. Do you both have any? I know you have Ukrainian friends or like a bunch of different Slavic friends, but how many Russian friends do you have? Because like I just met my first Russian person in a long time. Like he just walked into the dojo and he started like taking classes.
You live in New York. You probably just don't realize you're meeting Russians all the time.
I mean, I thought about that. A lot of my Russian-speaking friends, most of them are like Moldovan, Ukrainian.